Good evening. This 71st meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. Please turn off all cell phones or put them on vibrate. Tonight we will have our invocation by Michael Watson Jr., Vice Primate of the River of Healing Fellowship Ministries, Incorporated. Following the invocation, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you bow your head as I pray? Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all those who are gathered here tonight. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of healing. We need to fulfill our callings for substance and for friendships. Thank you for your ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor and bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you for loving us even so, for your boundless and gracious natures. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I ask that you will graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflict interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of people, a keen of thirst for justice and greatness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in around in our beloved city of Baltimore. It is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's Showcase Baltimore presenter is Lydia Watts and Monifa Jeffrey Riggins from the Rohr Center at University of Maryland, Baltimore.
Good evening. First of all, I want to say thank you to Council President Scott and his office for making this an opportunity available, and a special thank you to Councilmember Burnett, who's been a big champion of the Rohr Center. So I'm Lydia Watts, and I'm joined by my colleague Monifa Jeffrey Riggins, and we represent the Rohr Center, which is a new initiative at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. If you want to advance. We provide free services to survivors of crime, exclusively to folks here in Baltimore City. We define crime very, very broadly, so it's all the things that you would think of when you think of crime: gunshots, assaults, intimate partner violence, sexual violence, human trafficking. But we also define as under that umbrella folks that are living in housing conditions where the landlord or the owner of the property knows that there's mold or rats or all of the other things that plague many of our housing here in Baltimore City and aren't doing anything to rectify that. So we help folks in that situation as well as anybody who is exposed to environmental toxins illegally. We do not require a police report, so folks who, for whatever reason, aren't comfortable going to law enforcement, we know there's lots of reasons why people in Baltimore City don't feel comfortable going to the police, and we've been very intentional about reaching out to those communities. So as I'm sure you all know, that includes people living in poverty, people of color generally, immigrants, particularly recent arrivals, and undocumented folks, LGBTQ folks, people who have substance abuse disorders or mental health issues or who are experiencing homelessness, the elderly, the young. So all of those folks statistically are at much higher risk of being victimized by crime and are the least likely to reach out to the police for intervention. And that's where the Rohr Center steps in. For the vast majority of the folks we see, they are not people who have availed themselves of a traditional law enforcement kind of approach or response to being a victim of crime, yet these folks are having all of the impact of crime. So unstable housing, health issues, need for help with protection orders, other sorts of things. So we provide wraparound services And sorry, Monifa, I went way off script, so my slides don't at all. We've already talked about that. So we serve them by providing wraparound services. That means we have lawyers on staff that provide legal assistance. A lot of that is around housing. So when folks need to move but may not be able to get out of a lease or need help with transfers if they're in public housing, or Section 8 voucher transfers if they're in Section 8 housing. Monifa is our therapist on staff, and so she provides counseling one-on-one, as well as some groups that she'll be developing in the new year that'll largely be around type of victimization. So folks that have a commonality of maybe domestic violence or sexual violence, Monifa's going to be developing those groups to address kind of common issues for folks when they experience that type of victimization. The slide that I skipped that Monifa had up there for a while is we are a collaboration of all of the schools within the University of Maryland, Baltimore. So we're cited at the law school, but we are a collaboration of the law school, the School of Social Work, nursing, dentistry, medicine, and pharmacy. And so we also have, in addition to Monifa, we have another social worker who's a case manager, and we also have a part-time community health nurse. And that's really to help people navigate their health needs. A lot of the folks that come to us have fallen out of care, and many of them have chronic health issues that we also know disproportionately impact a lot of the communities that I already mentioned that are at high risk of crime, or also have very high health disparity rates. So high rates of diabetes, kidney disease, HIV infection. So all of those ongoing chronic issues, as well as any acute injuries related to the crime, our nurse is there to help people navigate, make appointments, really get back into care for all of those issues. So I briefly mentioned the lawyers. These are the list, if you go back one, I'm sorry, Monifa. This is the list, one forward, sorry. The list of types of legal services that we provide is this one right here. I won't read through them, but we do basically all of the different what civil legal services. We also, for folks that for whom there is a police investigation and possibly an arrest and a prosecution, we will also help and actually represent the victim in those matters as well. As you all know, the prosecutor represents the state, and so we will actually enter our appearance if there's a prosecution to protect the crime victims' rights that are enumerated under the Maryland Constitution. So all those civil stuff plus the criminal. You can skip this slide. We're looking for lawyers to help us pro bono, so if any lawyers in the group want to connect us up, that was what that slide was about. Again, our case manager does a lot around housing, helping people find safe, affordable housing, but also connects people with substance abuse treatment, help with utility bills, is the hearing that we just walked in on at the end, so thank you all for your activism around that. That's been a big issue for our clients. So really any kind of tangible need. I've already talked about the nurse care management, and we're also available to do these kinds of outreach. So as I said, we've been very intentionally reaching out to communities around the city that, again, are who serve folks that are more likely to be victimized by crime and less likely to want to call the police or feel comfortable calling the police. Monifa's now going to join us for what she's going to add to my presentation, and I'm going to go advance slides.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to add that our services are absolutely free, and folks do not need to, that our services are free and they're client-driven in the sense that clients can let us know the services that they want to access. So we have clients here that may only want to speak with our attorneys. We have clients that only want to speak with a case manager because they have housing needs. We have clients that may want to meet with all of us. So our clients get to determine the type of services that they want to access for us as well. You also do not need an identification as well to be seen from us. Our idea is just to provide all of the services that our clients need in one area, which helps to relieve a lot of the barriers that many of our survivors have to face. Thank you so much for having us. Oh, if you're interested, if you have any clients that are interested in receiving support for us, they can call our intake line, which is shown on our screen at 410-706-2781, and they will need to leave a voicemail message, and someone will return their phone call on Tuesdays or Thursdays between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Tonight's youth showcase presenters will be Kashay Curtis, Angel Hargrove, and Crystal Tillery from the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City.
And I'm kind of short. Yeah, we got it. Thank you. You gonna come up? All right. Hello, my name is Kashay Curtis. As he said, I'm the president of the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City.
Hi, I'm Crystal Tillery, the vice president.
Hi, my name is Angel. I am the secretary at ASCBC, and I go to Vivian T. Thomas Medical Arts Academy.
I go to Baltimore City College. Yes. So what we came to talk to you about is, as she said, ASCBC, or the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City, is basically a regional SGA. It's student-led. We're just 3 of our members here. And basically, our goal for this year is to unite our schools all across Baltimore City. Mainly, we only do high schools and middle schoolers. And this year, we're working on trying to bring everyone together and make it a community project, and making sure that we bring together the schools this year, because last year, as treasurer, we were able to double our schools to 26, and this year we're hoping to triple that number. And Kristen?
Okay. So to just preface what ASCBC do, some events we have that is upcoming. Can I please? Okay. Some of the events we have that are upcoming is our Fall Leadership Conference, which is this Saturday. So basically, we bring students from the city to converse with people from the state, and we attend workshops that focus on leadership skills and just, basic school skills that we learn every day. And then we also have a GA, a General Assembly, coming up December 5th, with which we bring in city students to converse about problems that they think they have within their schools.
So next year, upcoming March, we'll also be participating in the mass event that is happening in March. Our region and other region, we all meet together. We compete in workshops, and we all do fundraisers that we're fundraising for. And we also make connection with other regions so we can kind of grow our ASCBC brand. I'm sorry. And we are also in the process of working with nonprofit organizations to try to connect our students and our organization to nonprofits, so we can also give back to our community, because that's what we're also all about.
So ASCBC's main goal is to focus on advocation within the school system, but we're actually trying to spread out and be more communicative, meaning that we're trying to focus on the community as a whole of Baltimore City instead of only focusing on the school system.
Yep. I think that's it. Okay. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Roll call. The clerk will call the roll of the members.
President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes.
Yes.
Did I miss him?
Yeah.
Schleifer, sorry, sir. Snead, Clark. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
We will now proceed with the adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the journal of the November 4th, 2019 proceedings are on the council members' desks.
Without objection, the journal will be adopted. The journal is adopted. Bills signed by the mayor can be found on pages 2 and 3 of the agenda. Executive nominations.
EA 19-0257, Donna Davis, Member, Board of Ethics, District 1.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee. Bills to be introduced.
City Council Bill 19-0467, Charter Amendment, vetoes timing of override for the purpose of modifying and clarifying the time within which the council may consider to override a mayoral veto and submitting this amendment to the qualified voters of the city for adoption or rejection. Sponsors: Dorsey, President Scott, Bullock, Snead, Cohen, Burnett, Pinkett, Henry.
Please add Councilman Reisinger as a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark as a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Just as a note, I'm looking at my paper here and those of my colleagues adjacent to me, and they are actually numbered on the paper 190468, which is also the number on the next bill. And we heard 0467, so for the record, just want to make that clear. This council does great work. I was very proud this evening to stand with advocates just before the beginning of this council meeting to discuss and celebrate the passage of the Water Accountability and Equity Act this evening. And I also see before us this evening that on third reader we have the Comprehensive Bag Reduction Act. And recently, and we also have other important bills before us, like the Fair Elections Fund, and so many other important things that this council has been doing. It would be a shame if we had to jump through hoops should any of those bills be vetoed. But the current city charter rules say that if a bill is vetoed by a mayor, and now I'm not saying that I believe for 1 second that that Mayor Young is going to veto any of these great bills in front of us. I'm just using this as an example. That if one of these bills were to be vetoed, say on December 16th of this year, we don't already have a regular scheduled meeting between 5 and 20 days from the time of the December 16th meeting. This council is only allowed to make a motion to override a mayoral veto between 5 and 20 days after the day that the veto is given to us. And now there are rules that say that we could call for a special meeting, but I don't exactly think that we should have to jump through that kind of hoops just in order for a member of this council, duly elected by the representatives of the members of their district, to be able to simply make a motion to say, I think that we should move to override this veto and let the vote be held. What this bill here tonight does as a charter amendment resolution would make a very minor change to the provision in the city charter that says that if there is no council meeting between 5 and 20 days after a mayoral veto is delivered to the council, that we can simply move to override the veto on the next council meeting after that. This is not dissimilar to the state's law that says that they simply have to move to override a veto immediately at the beginning of the next session. This is very simple. At the next available opportunity, somebody should have the opportunity to make that motion. And I put this before my colleagues, and thank you to all who have co-sponsored this evening, and I look forward to hearing when it comes time to be hearing these many great bills on charter amendments that we've put forth. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
And thank you. This has been assigned to the Judiciary Committee.
City Council Bill 19-0468, Child First Authority updating, for the purpose of amending certain statutory provisions governing the Child First Authority to better reflect the authority's status under City Charter Article 2, Section 64B, as an independent unit of city government, conforming certain provisions to long-standing existing practice and repealing certain obsolete provisions. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Judiciary Committee.
City Council Bill 19-0469, Release of Easement, 10 South Howard Street, for the purpose of authorizing the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore to release a pedestrian easement located on the property known as 10 South Howard Street and no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, Costello.
This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee. Resolutions to be introduced.
City Council Resolution 19-0181R, Historically Black Colleges and Universities Settlement, for the purpose of supporting the ruling of the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland and the offer made by the Historically Black Colleges and Universities Coalition regarding the lawsuit against the state, and urging Governor Hogan and the General Assembly to settle the coalition lawsuit in accordance with the court ruling and the offer made by the coalition. Sponsor, President Scott, Bullock, Sneed, Cohen, Burnett, Dorsey, Pinkett, Schleifer, Costello, Henry, Clark, McCray.
Please add Councilman Stokes and Councilman Reisinger as co-sponsors. Before I recognize Councilman Sneed, just want to say that we know what Maryland's HBCUs mean to our state, mean to our community, and the culture of our state. We have a ruling that has been put forth. We have a offer by the governor that does not meet anywhere near what that ruling calls for and what is needed to make sure that our HBCUs in Maryland are able to thrive, because we know not just here in Baltimore City with Baltimore University, Morgan State, and Coppin State University, but what the University of Maryland Eastern Shore does for our city, what the Bowie State University does for our state. And we have to support our HBCUs in Baltimore and beyond. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Snead.
Thank you, Council President. As the proud graduate of two historically black universities, Morgan State University and University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Mr. President, I move we suspend the rules and move this resolution for immediate adoption.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Cohen. From Bowie State, Councilwoman McCray. Councilman Dorsey. Councilman Henry. Councilman Schleifer. Councilman Pinkett. Councilman Burnett. From Hampton University, Councilman Bullock. Councilman Reisinger. Councilman Costello. From Morgan State, Councilman Stokes. From Morgan State and UMES, Councilwoman Snead. Councilwoman Clark.
The motion is approved. This resolution has been adopted. Consent calendar. You can find the consent calendar in Section A at the back of the agenda. Without objection, the consent calendar is approved. The consent calendar is approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we read short titles for second and third reader for the duration of the hearing.
Yes, without objection, we will read short titles for the remainder of the hearing. Approved short titles for the remainder of the hearing. Committee reports. We will now move to bills on second reader. Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 19-0251, Emily Hovermail.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee held hearings on November the 6th, 2019. I move the nomination favorable.
All those in favor of approving this nomination say aye. All those in favor of approving this nomination say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This nomination is approved.
EA 19-0252, Darcy Fellon Emmerich.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the nomination favorable.
All those in favor of approving this nomination say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This nomination is approved.
EA 19-0253, Lisa Radoff.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the nomination favorable.
All those in favor of approving this nomination say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This nomination is approved.
EA 19-0254, Regina T. Boyce.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee held a hearing. I move the nomination favorable.
All those in favor of approving this nomination say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This nomination is approved. Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 19-0432, Campaign Signs in Residential Areas, Repeal of Earliest Date Requirement.
Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Housing and Urban Affairs Committee heard this bill on November 12, 2019. There are technical amendments on your desks.
All those in favor of approving the amendment say aye. All opposed say nay. The amendments are approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorable as amended.
All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Resolution 19-0158R, approval for the exchange of a Class BD7 license to a Class A7 license, 1503 to 05 Light Street.
Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee also heard this bill on November 12th. There are no amendments, and I move the resolution favorable.
All those in favor of approving this resolution say aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. The resolution is approved. Judiciary Committee.
City Council Bill 19-0403, Fair Election Fund, Establishment and Administration.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee held a hearing on Tuesday, November 5th. There are amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
All those in favor of approving the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The amendments are approved. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader. Land Use Committee.
City Council Bill 19-0415, conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 2 dwelling units in the R8 zoning district, variances 1700 West Franklin Street.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the finding of facts.
Without objection, the findings of fact will be adopted. The findings of fact are adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
There are amendments to this bill. The amendments are on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
All those in favor of approving the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The amendments are adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
I move the bill favorable as amended.
All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 19-0418, zoning, conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 2 dwelling units in the R8 zoning district, variance 1047 North Caroline Street.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
I move the finding of facts.
Without objection, the findings of fact will be adopted. The findings of fact are adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the bill favorable.
All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 19-0419, zoning, conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 3 dwelling units in the R7 zoning district, variance 2310 Utah Place.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
I move the finding of facts.
Without objection, the findings of fact will be adopted. The findings of fact are adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
This bill has amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
All those in favor of approving the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The amendments are adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the bill favorable as amended.
All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader. Public Safety Committee.
City Council Bill 19-0466, human trafficking notice requirements corrective.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scheifler.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety Committee held a hearing on this bill on November 12th. There are no amendments. I'd like to move the bill favorable.
All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. All opposed say nay. The motion approved. This bill moves to third reader. Chair recognizes Councilman Scheifler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move to invoke City Council Rule 12-1 for same-day advancement from second to third reader.
Roll call.
President Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Cohen. Councilwoman McCray. Councilman Dorsey. Councilman Henry. Councilman Schleifer. Councilman Pinkett. Councilman Burnett. Councilman Bullock. Councilman Reisinger. Councilman Costello. Councilman Stokes. Councilwoman Sneed. Councilwoman Clark.
The ayes have it. This bill moves to third reader today. Third reader, requiring invocation of Council Rule 12-1 for same-day advancement from second to third reader.
City Council Bill 19-0466, human trafficking notice requirements, corrective. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed, Clark.
This bill is approved. Third reader for final passage.
City Council Bill 19-0401, comprehensive bag reduction. President Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Cohen. Councilwoman McCray.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman McCray.
Mr. President, I would like to explain my vote. I fully support banning plastic bags, but I don't support a bag tax on paper bags, on compostable bags. It's an unnecessary and regressive tax on low-income residents, on working families on a fixed income, on seniors within my community on a fixed income who voice their frustration daily and are asking for much needed relief on high property taxes, on high water bills. And we have acknowledged that these water bills are too high, and we turn around and we say, it's okay, and you can afford this bag tax too. Regardless of how big or how small the charge is, even if it's 5 cents, I know that pennies add up, I know that dollars add up, and my vote will be a consistent no when it comes to unnecessary taxes on my constituents. I vote no this evening.
Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed, Clark.
This bill is approved. Enroll third reader for final passage.
City Council Resolution 18-0307, Water Accountability and Equity Act. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry. Schleifer, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed, Clark.
This bill is approved. Committee announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Housing and Urban Affairs Committee will be holding a hearing on December 10th, Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. It'll be for City Council Bill 190156R, Resolution Be More Clean, Coordinated Agency Community Cleanup and Maintenance Strategy, introduced by Councilman Burnett. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Executive Appointments Committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, November the 20th, 2019 at 10 a.m. to view the following nomination for Board of Ethics for Baltimore City, Donna Davis. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, the Land Use Committee will hold a hearing on Bill 19-0454 on January 15th, 2020 in the council chambers. This is the rezoning of block 7653C, lot 029. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a reminder announcement that the Health Committee will be hosting a hearing Wednesday at 5 p.m. with Dr. Sarasas from the Health Department to deliver a State of Public Health address for the City of Baltimore. And on Thursday at 10 a.m., the Health Committee will be hosting a hearing on the city's zero waste plan to clean up our streets and waterways. Thank you. 10 a.m. on Thursday.
Thank you. Committee announcements on this side. Regular announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it's more traditional to thank people when a bill comes out on second reader, but we were still making the last-minute adjustments last week on the comprehensive bag ban, and so I didn't want to jinx things by saying anything then. But now that the bill has passed, I want to say thank you to all of the advocates who have worked hard, not just on this most recent incarnation, but for all of the times that we have tried over the entire time I've been in the council. And my colleague, our departed colleague, Councilman Jim Kraft, who started, not that kind of departed, yes, former Councilman Jim Kraft, who introduced a version of this in the 2003 term. We have been trying for many years to reduce the proliferation of single-use plastic in Baltimore City. I am thankful to my co-sponsors who helped make this happen. I am even grateful to the chair of the committee, our colleague Councilman Costello, who ensured a robust public conversation on what is actually a very important issue. And I am grateful because I believe that the bill we actually ended up passing is a good bill, it is a strong bill, and I'm looking forward to either the mayor's signature or having him allow it to become law without his signature so that we can get started on a Baltimore that is truly beyond plastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, please note that the clearing the bill status can be found on page 10 of the agenda. I would also like to wish Councilman Dorsey a happy belated birthday. His birthday was on November the 12th. Happy birthday, Councilman. And then also a bittersweet announcement. This will be the last council meeting for Kimberly Rubens and my staff. She'll be leaving us to join the housing department, so she won't be too far. I think that Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark and I are going to have a conversation with the housing commissioner about coming to City Hall, but we'll have that later. But thank you, Kimberly, for all your hard work and making sure that we are having great fiscal analysis for our bills so that the council can be more fiscally responsible and operating in the 21st century. You will be missed. Thank you very much for all your great work. I would also like to recognize we had a press conference before. All the advocates, the water advocates who are here for us today as we pass the Water Accountability Equity Act. Could you all guys please stand so we can give you a round of applause? Thank you for all your hard work and all your advocacy. I also would like to ask that Councilman Reisinger honor a moment of silence for the 304 victims of homicide that we've lost so far in Baltimore this year, and all of those that we've lost to the opioid crisis as well. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark first.
Because I'm asking for a moment of silence as well, for a person who never was silent when injustices or good times demanded her participation. And her name was and will always be Pastor Alice. Robert. The pastor of Guardian Angel Church right there at Huntington and West 27th in Remington. When she came in 1997, and she's been there every day ever since, in her red tennis shoes and her shorts and her person-to-person way of being a church and spiritual leader. And we unfortunately have lost her. She bravely endured a very long and painful passing, but she has been celebrated while she was still there to enjoy it, and Saturday at a very formal service at the Cathedral of the Incarnation, which was packed to the gills. Pastor Alice, her real name, just so I make sure I have it right, is Reverend Alice M. Bassett Jalima. And she's now up there with the angels as our guardian angel, and a moment of silence would be appreciated, although she'd be the first one to break it with a laugh and a funny story. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, before I recognize Councilman Bullock, I just wanted to give my weekly update. We still have 3 Baltimore City high school football teams available in the and playing in the playoffs. So Dunbar will be playing this Friday in the the state quarterfinals, along with Emerson High School and Mervo. So let's go out and support all of our young people this Friday as they all try to play for a state championship. So thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock, who's going to announce some special guests for Indigenous Peoples Month.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. You know, as we enter the holiday season, which is going to be replete with revisionist history, I think it's important that we recognize the most large national stain that we have, which is the treatment of Native peoples. We know from genocide through land theft and also forced assimilation, we see that essentially we've seen our people being marginalized. We've seen them depicted through stereotypical images with mascots. But also we recognize that there are resilient people. And so as they stand with us as Indigenous Strong, I would like to extend floor privileges to our guests.
All those in favor of approving floor privileges, extending floor privileges to Councilman Bullock's guests, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Floor privileges are extended.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Dominic, go to Costello. John Costello's on.
Hello, I am Jessica Dickerson with Indigenous Strong. We are an Indigenous group representing Native and Indigenous peoples in Baltimore and throughout Maryland. We first want to honor our Piscataway relatives whose land we are standing on and who are still here today. I am an enrolled member of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina, and this is Native American Heritage Month, which was first proclaimed by George H. Bush in 1990. President Obama also proclaimed Native American Heritage Month, although President Trump proclaimed the month but added American Founders Month to celebrate European settlers and colonizers, which seems to be an intentional move to shift focus away from Native Americans and Indigenous voices. He also has stated that he refuses to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Given the current political climate, it is imperative that Baltimore City and Maryland not delay any longer in being on the right side of history and changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Falayan. I'm Pueblo, Cherokee, and Aztec, and a proud resident of Baltimore City. Our group has been advocating for several years now to have Indigenous Peoples Day recognized in Baltimore City so that our history and modern day culture are not erased. We've met with many of you over the past few years. However, some of you don't support changing the name. Others have said they privately support us but can't publicly support us as a voting for a bill. And others supported our bill in the beginning and then didn't vote for it in 2017. We want to thank those who did support us without question. We really appreciate it. This is really disappointing for our Indigenous community who feels a slap in the face every time Columbus Day comes around and every time we walk past a Columbus statue. As of today, over 100 cities and 13 states have changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. This includes places in Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and most recently, our DC neighbors. Baltimore had the opportunity to be at the forefront of this movement, but decided against passing this legislation in 2017. Baltimore and Maryland are behind. I want to share with you why this holiday is so hurtful to our people. Christopher Columbus is celebrated for discovering America. However, what is usually celebrated about him is not based on historical fact. He did not discover America. It was already home to over 100 million indigenous people. He was not the first European to travel the Americas. While he was Italian, he was on a mission for Spain, and one of his primary aims was to find gold. What we did know from his journals and the journals of the priest who traveled with him is that he did initiate the transatlantic slave trade when he captured 1,600 Tainos and shipped them to Spain for gold. He sold indigenous girls into sex slavery, what we now call sex trafficking, as young as age 9. He bragged about the demand for girl children. He required Taino people to bring him gold every 3 months, or he would chop their arms off, and around 10,000 Tainos died this way. His priests documented multiple brutal massacres of Indians, including disemboweling them and who were living peacefully and were killed for no reason. He encouraged the rape of our women. Columbus is not our hero.
Shio, Ayan, Dakwadoa, Tavi Han. I'm an Eastern Band Cherokee descendant. Today, Baltimore is home to one of the largest urban Indian populations on the East Coast. Many Lumbee and Cherokee Indians moved here during the Federal Indian Relocation Act. We are also home to Halawasaponi, Tuscarora, Shinnecock, Shawnee, Monacan, and Choctaw, and thousands of other Indians. Due to historical oppression, our people struggle. It hurts us to hear of Columbus Day and parades and statues honoring someone who was responsible for indigenous genocide. It feels like people don't care what's happened and what still happens to indigenous people. It hurts our children to hear this man honored in public school classes. And what's confusing to us is how our city acted so swiftly to remove 3 hurtful Confederate monuments. Within a day, they were gone, just as they should have been. But the same city government cannot see how Columbus Day and Columbus statues are equally as racist. You cannot proclaim to be progressive and inclusive and celebrate Columbus Day, a racist holiday. It seems to us you cannot see indigenous people. Do you still not know that we're here? We need to know what it will take for this city council to finally take this on and pass a bill changing that day to Indigenous Peoples Day. We hope that this is not related to money, backdoor politics, or people's political career agendas. We were always here, we are still here, and we're not going anywhere. We are not going to be quiet about this. We want some accountability from current city council to our indigenous community. Please pass legislation acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day. Please change the name of the holiday. We were told that we could bring some handouts to share with you all, and so we have one for each person here so that you can do a little of your own research. We just ask that you have the courage to do the right thing now.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, members of the council, the next meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, December 2nd at 5 p.m. in the council chambers. And Mr. President, I ask a moment of silence for Pastor Alice, the 304 homicide victims, and also for Jake Sultman.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the 71st meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council.